So, hey, this is Gary Portnoy here, and you are watching Pickin' It Out with Andrew Pope.
Well, it's another podcast. It's just called Pickin' It Out. It's another podcast, y'all, called Pickin' It Out. Got the one and only Gary Portnoy in the house. Everybody knows his name. Yeah, and we're gonna be picking it out. And I missed that note, but that's okay because we're picking it out and we don't edit very much.
Live TV.
That's right. Hey, y'all.
Hey.
So, see, now you see what I mean? I have to, reach over here.
I got you. Yep.
That's kind of... Gotta find a better way of doing that, but that's the only thing I got going now.
Okay, there's enough better.
Well, hey, y'all. My name is Andrew Pope, and we're picking it out again this week. Appreciate y'all tuning in each and every week. I'm real excited today because talking to a guy that I've kind of admired in the background for a long time. I guess a lot of people know this guy or know of him, but they really don't know about him. And I wanted to have him on the show so he can, talk about his life, talk about some accomplishments, and just talk about life in general and whatever else comes up, just like we do here on Picking It Out. So he wrote one of my favorite TV theme songs of all time. Okay, there's my cat wanting to say hi again. Gracie, hush. Where Everybody Knows Your Name. Cheers theme song. And performed it. And we couldn't be more happy to have Mr. Gary Portnoy. How you doing?
Doing good, Andrew. How you doing?
Doing pretty good. You could probably tell I'm kind of sweaty. That's because my wife had a low beam light out on her car, and I thought I'd just go out there and kind of pop it in and out, change it, and damn near had to take the bumper off.
What was it on her car?
A headlight bulb.
Oh, a light.
Yeah. You would think, simple days, just kind of pop out, replace, and you're good.
I wouldn't.
Not on these cars these days. So after doing all this, okay, I'm already sweating and everything. Then I look it up on YouTube, and all you have to do is take these two screws out in the wheel well and reach through there and do it. That's what I ended up doing. But anyway, how's things in New York?
Well, I imagine about as crazy as everywhere else. It's a pretty crazy time in the world.
Yeah, it is.
Not crazy good.
No.
Crazy, just dangling and hoping you hold on to the wire. And
right.
Yeah, it's crazy. I just, my lifetime, this is just madness on every level. So
agreed.
You just, you do the best you can, and you try and keep your friends, which has turned out to not always be so easy
right
these days, right?
Yeah.
And that's what it is. But okay, up here in the woods. Actually, I'm in the woods outside New York City. So
I was raised in the woods.
Yeah, I'm in the country. I have a feeling this is not quite as woodsy as where you were raised, but it's woodsy for me.
Yeah. Are you from New York originally?
Yes, I was born in Brooklyn, borough of New York City. And then we did what everybody did. We moved to Long Island. And then I moved to Manhattan to try and be in the music business. And then I moved up here 30 miles north of Manhattan. So, but always in the same, always in the same part of the world. Yeah.
How did that music business thing work out?
Well, it was interesting. If it wasn't for one particular day, my answer would be, if I hadn't gotten up one particular day and written one particular song, my answer might be really, really different, because, it was a pretty ugly business. And, a lot of really, really talented people don't wind up with enough to show for putting themselves through that. But so I guess it worked out good, but, for about 7 or 8 years, it was pretty, just a lot of, some good people, a lot of unsavory people, a lot of disappointments over and over and over again. A lot of things that seem like it's about to happen and it doesn't, like life, So, but I just went after, I dropped out of school and I just went for it. And I got pretty lucky early on in the sense that I could feel that I had, there was some interest at every point along the way, mixed in with all the rejection and the horror. I always felt there was a line between me and getting to where I was going. Otherwise, I would have quit. So
it's an interesting, it's an interesting business for sure.
Yeah. I was 17 when I went after it. And I'm glad I was that young. And it, took me 8 years to have the kind of success that people consider successful.
Right.
I had songs cut, I had record deal, but it's sort of like if the person on the street doesn't know, you're not successful.
Yeah.
And that's not true.
No.
That is not true. But there's a measuring stick. But I made some demos in between when I graduated high school, and I just went to New York City, and I had this Billboard magazine list, and I didn't know the difference between an agent, a manager, a producer, a publisher. And I just went to every single address that I went to and got every door slammed in my face except for one. This guy invited me and my friend up. And it was like, the door to the kingdom of, he invited us up. And he was a hit songwriter. And he listened to our tapes. And he said to my friend, "You're not a songwriter." And he turned to me and he said, "You're a songwriter."
Wow.
So that was it. That was it. From that moment on, I was a songwriter because he said so.
Yeah.
And that was my start in the music business.
You hit on something there. I can only speak for myself and my experiences, but I know other people have similar ones. And the disappointments and the door slammed, time after time, man, that can really get discouraging if you let it really get to you and let the rats run loose in your brain. You start thinking you're the problem, like you're not good enough or whatever.
Or why would I put myself there? I remember one guy, this is how old I am. It was a reel-to-reel tape that I had dropped off at his office. And when I went to get it back, it was returned to me in a brown paper bag that obviously had a tuna fish sandwich in it.
Nice.
dripping with tuna fish oil.
Wow.
And my tape was, in the box. And I thought, wow, this is really a low point. Really, this is really a low point. What people, put up with such abuse. Well, that was abuse. It was like, and people would invite you into their offices and they'd take a phone call.
Yeah.
And your tape would be running. And then at the end of the call, they said, not what we're looking for. Or, and they hadn't even spent 5 seconds focusing on it.
Right.
All this stuff is coming back to me right now. It's all coming back to me right now.
Like a bad dream.
Yeah, terrible, terrible stuff. But if there's something in you that, which is the thing, if some people have to do it, because if you don't have to do it, why the hell would you?
Mm-hmm.
So you have to do it. So I didn't really feel like I had a choice. And then after 6, 7, or 8 years had gone by, people in New York were saying, if he was going to do anything, he would have done it by now.
Mm.
That was the word I was, he would have done it by now if he was going to do anything. And that really was hard because I was thinking the same thing. I was thinking, I would have done it by now. Like there's some time frame or some roadmap. So that was really, then I really felt I was going uphill because then I wasn't 17 anymore. I was 24. I was so old. But I had been banging around for 7 or something years during that time. And as I said, I had record deals, I got cuts, and it didn't seem, the world has their own, measure of success.
Yeah.
And, screw that.
Yeah.
I mean, success can happen every day on many levels that don't reach public success.
Sure.
Or they can happen publicly, but a little quiet.
Sure.
Not go through the roof.
Yeah.
So it's complicated. People who pursue creative dreams. It's really complicated.
Yeah. As Waylon Jennings said, it's a hard road to hoe. Yeah, all those disappointments, they always made me want to try harder. Mm-hmm. Like I'll be damned if you're going to sit here and tell me I ain't good enough or I ain't whatever.
Yes.
Marketable or whatever.
Yep. Yeah. I had one person I was working with, a producer, he told me I was a writer, but I was not a singer. I was not an artist, quote unquote. And then I got signed to Capitol Records, or I got offered a deal at Capitol Records. And I went into him and I told him, I'm not going to be working with you anymore because I have this opportunity. He wanted to record me right then and there. All of a sudden, I was an artist.
Yeah.
He wanted to take me in the studio that very minute and record me. No, I didn't say you weren't. Yes, you did. I never said you weren't an artist. I said you weren't quite ready. I said, well, look, I respect your opinion, but somebody else thinks otherwise. So why wouldn't I go there?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
some of these corporate label people, big publishers, big agents, publicists, whatever, they really, I'm amazed. Just sometimes you can kind of be at a place where a lot of them's gathered. You can kind of sit back and watch, and it just makes me want to vomit.
Well, I hate to paint with a broad brush, but they lack humanity.
Oh yeah.
That's the problem. And people in a lot of parts of life but in my experience in the music business and the television business, not all of them, but they lack humanity and empathy and all kinds of things that it would be nice to have if you're dealing with creative people.
Absolutely.
Or you're dealing with anybody, but you're dealing with creative people who are, putting themselves on the line and saying, do you like this? Do you like me? And, unfortunately, it's being presented to the worst possible slice of humanity, the worst possible slice of people you'd want to be vulnerable to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
but I assume if they could do it, they would have.
Right. Right.
I'm just assuming that a lot of them kind of would have liked to.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that may be why they got involved in the business in the first place.
Yeah. Some of them have some anger and resentment.
Sure.
About what they didn't do. I was surprised to find out a lot of executives had little flirtations with being writers or singers. It's kind of amazing. A lot of them. One of the biggest people I was ever signed to. No idea that he did a little novelty recording, kind of an embarrassing one, early on as a singer. And so you almost get the feeling like they didn't get to live their dream. So they'll smack you around.
They can crush yours.
Yeah. I hate to, again, not everybody.
Yeah.
But too many.
Yeah.
Way too many.
I think so too. It makes a lot of sense, how'd you get noticed before you got the offer from Capitol?
I was writing with this writer, and then I was writing with a lady, and I was named Estelle Levitt, and I was dropping songs around town at different places, and usually you never heard back anything. And one day I was writing with her, and she said to me, Richard Landis called me. I don't know who he was. And he asked me what you look like. He said, somebody called you and asked you what I look like? Yeah, and he just got a job as the head of East Coast A&R for Capitol Records. I said, that's kind of strange, whatever. So either I just called him or I had a lawyer who was working with me. I just called him up. And, I had this song on hold for a group called the Bay City Rollers in the 1970s and didn't get cut. And then the guy at this publishing company was friends and played it for Richard. Richard heard it and he thought it was a hit. And I went and met with him and he liked every song I played him. That had never happened to me before, ever. He liked every song I played him.
Wow.
And, it was like, and then he signed me to Capitol Records. And then the disaster began. And he became a big producer in Nashville. He produced all of Juice Newton's hits. And really super talented guy. But we just crossed paths at the wrong time in each other's lives.
Yeah.
And man, did it go bad. We made an album together. It was never released. And it's kind of amazing we made it out alive together. It got really, really bad, I think he had put his job on the line to sign, I was the first act and this was his new job. And I was the first act that he signed, an unknown, unpublished, unrecognized 20-year-old. And so there was a lot of pressure on him and I felt it. And all of a sudden I couldn't sing. I got to the microphone and I couldn't sing.
Oh man.
For weeks. And I understand now what that must have done to him because he had, but at the time, it was the 70s and there was drugs and maybe he thought that would help me to sing better. It didn't. And it just, wow. And it was really, we really never have spoken about it. I think we exchanged an email some few years back, but it was really a difficult time. But that's how I got discovered. That's how I got discovered. And to this day, when I look back on the music business, one of my biggest regrets is my Frankie Valli record that never happened.
Oh.
There was this guy, Charlie Colello. He was the arranger of arrangers at that time. And he was arranging my record as a favor to Richard. They were friends. And at the same time, he was producing Frankie Valli in the next studio. And he was working on my stuff. One day he comes into me, he says, I'm cutting your song with Frankie Valli tomorrow. You know, it's iconic. He says, I'm cutting your song. He said, you know, we've been holding it. We didn't think we have a single, and we think we might have found a single. So I'm going crazy. And Richard comes in, what's going on? I said, Frankie Valli's cutting my song tomorrow. What? Which one? I said, you know, Only My Woman Knows. No, he's not. I said, what do you mean? No, he's not. I said, yeah, no, I looked at Charlie. Charlie says, well, if he says I can't, and Richard went ballistic. He like pinned me against the wall. The spit was coming out of his face. I fucking put my job, my career on the line to sign you, and you want to give away your best song to another artist? Don't you believe in me? You know? And I said, Richard, it's not another artist. It's fucking Frankie Valli.
Right.
And you know as well as I do that the best way to launch an unknown artist is for them to have a hit with somebody else or some call. Well, he was having none of it. And Frankie Valli never cut my song. A year later, I was coming out of a recording session, and Frankie Valli was walking in the studio. And I introduced myself, and before I could say anything, he said, you wrote Only My Woman Knows. I think a year later.
Wow.
He still remembered the song. And so that's one of my biggest regrets in my music business looking back, that I had something and, you know.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's how stuff happens. But that was my Capitol Records experience. That was my record deal, my first one.
Made a record that got shelved.
The record got shelved.
Like a lot of artists do.
And I got robbed. And poor Richard probably had 20 nervous breakdowns during the course of that. But you know what? Then he went on and started making hits with Juice Newton and Lori Morgan, and he had an incredible career. And I went on and did stuff. And I think I said to him during our email, I said, I think we were two really talented people who crossed paths.
Wrong time.
At the wrong time. Yeah.
You know, a lot of this stuff is timing. You know, it really is. It's talent, but it's timing.
Oh my gosh. I mean, yeah. I was signed to a publisher, a big publisher, and I got fired at the end of 1981. And my rent, I didn't know how I was going to pay my rent. I didn't know if I'd ever get another deal. My self-confidence was, you know, when somebody tells you you're a disappointment to them. So, I don't know, 3 months later, we got the script to Cheers. And if I hadn't been fired by that publishing company, I would not have been able to write the Cheers theme, because the publishing, when you write a TV theme and you're 25 years old, publishing goes to the studio.
Oh, yeah.
Producing. I mean, so, you know, if I hadn't gotten fired, which at the time was one of the most humiliating, depressing things that ever happened. And that publisher had the nerve to call me up after Cheers happened and said, when exactly did you write that theme? When did you actually write it?
Oh.
Yeah. And I wanted to say 1 minute after midnight. date that you fucking fired me.
That'd have been the best answer ever.
Yeah, but I didn't have the guts, so I just said, about a month or two. I wanted to say 1 minute after me. I said, a couple of months later. Because they have no shame. Can you imagine?
Oh, yeah. Ruthless.
Oh, I forgot to tell you, I wrote it when I was signed to you, so I guess you're the publisher.
Yeah. Yeah, they'll do whatever they can. I mean, I've
bottom feeders.
I've never had the big cuts. John Schneider has recorded a few of my songs, and I've had some independent cuts.
He was born where I am sitting right now. I mean, he was
Mount
born,
Kisco.
Yes, I'm in Chapel. I am 2 miles from there.
Really?
Yeah, that's cool.
He talks about that very highly. Anytime he talks about Mount Kisco, New York.
Yeah.
Was Jackie Gleason born there too?
Oh, I think I might have read that.
Because
I'm not sure, but now that you mentioned, I think I might have read that. Yeah.
He told me that he thought he was because he met him once when they were doing Smokey and the Bandit. He actually snuck on the set as an extra and got to talk to Jackie Gleason, and he said that's what they talked about.
That they came from the same place.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. But I've not had the big time, deal. But I can imagine all of the bullshit that would go into that. If there's anybody involved, even, some of these shady co-writers, they can kind of pull some crap too. I
tell you, yeah, I'm really lucky. I come from a different time and place, or maybe it's my personality, but the whole time that I was writing songs, at any point in time, I had one co-writer who I was writing 90%. And then there were a few people I would write the occasional song with. I never had writing appointments where I was, had a book where I wrote with Jack on Monday, Jill on Tuesday, until I spent time in Nashville. Which was years later. But during my years of what I consider to be the years of my career, I actually wrote with very few people, and whoever I wrote with we were, if not soulmates, it was a real partnership and collaboration with all the problems that any marriage would have. But so I never, I've heard such horrible co-writer and collaboration stories. I think I was spared all of that because I was always in a personal relationship with anybody I wrote with for the first 20 years until I got to Nashville, actually.
Yeah.
Until I dropped into town in the 90s. And that was different. That was very different. Oh, and it's different now than it was in the 90s. Right. That's what I understand from my friends there. I hate going up there. Oh. I try to avoid it anytime I can. Yeah. I go maybe once or twice a year now, but it's a machine. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It definitely is much worse now but it was changing in the late 90s when I popped into town is when I think that was all kind of changing and happening. Mm-hmm. And from what I understand from the people who've been there throughout, but I loved going to Nashville, but not for the writing. I made friends at a time in my life when you don't expect to make new friends, and I just had, writing was the excuse. Yeah. And I just had the best. I didn't care about the writing, or else it would have been a frustrating place, a really frustrating place. I didn't care. I was having so much fun with the people that I met, and I'm still great friends with a handful of them. Yeah. But the writing, I couldn't stand writing in Nashville. It just was not. I mean, such incredibly talented, crafty, fast, crafty, talented people, but I just don't write that way. Me either. I couldn't do it. And sometimes there'd be a song, I would write one chord out of the entire song. And I would say, I can't be a co-writer. No, that's an important chord. No one ever tried to take me off a song. But I felt funny being on a song. I can't tell you how many times the guitars would get picked up and they would just write a song, or as they called it, pounding one out. I don't pound out. I write, I never pound it out.
Yeah.
And they would have books. They'd have a morning writing appointment and an afternoon writing appointment and an evening. And so I realized very early on, I can't do this. It's not it's not me. My rhythms are off. Everything's off. So that's when I discovered how to just have fun, make writing appointments as an excuse for going there. And then just, I was always so happy when they got canceled. And the morning of, there's this restaurant, Merides in Franklin, and they have the best oatmeal bread and egg salad in the world. And we would just, oh man, we're going to go to Merides. We don't have to write today. And my writing partner would say that I willed them away. She'd say that I had the ability to will these co-writers away, to get them to cancel, so we could go to Merides and have egg salad. Maybe I did. I tried really hard, and then every night we'd be out having fun.
Yeah.
Fun is, I never had that much fun in my life as in Nashville, but I had already kind of done my thing in the business, and I saw the fishbowl that it's like, if this is your shot and this is what, your chance or whatever, it's so incestuous. It's such a small town. Everyone's nipping at each other's tails and their heads, and they're exchanging co-writers, and I can only imagine what goes on when they pick songs to cut, the politics.
Oh yeah.
It's crazy, it's really crazy. And having gone through that once before in a different way, early in my career, I had no intention of going through it again. I walked into this one office, and, I had a lot of appointments there that people had to see me because I had connections in New York and Los Angeles, and the companies were attached. So I walked into meetings. I knew they didn't want any part of me, but they were forced to see me. Mm-hmm. And so those were unpleasant. And, I had quite a few awkward, unpleasant meetings.
Yeah.
But then I had fun.
Yeah.
Then I had. So my memories of Nashville are really, I haven't been there in 8 or 10 years, but my memories are good ones, but not of the music business. Again, not of the music business. And now that you hear, it's just really a sad place.
It is. When I started going up to Nashville to co-write, it was just like that. And I kind of learned real quick that I didn't enjoy that type of atmosphere. There was no chemistry in the room.
Yep.
It was just like
Yep.
It was like a task. We got to get this done and then go eat and go to lunch.
Yep.
Like you said, and knock one out. I mean, that's what they say. That's how they refer to the stuff, because they write 4 songs a day. And
yeah. I respect the best of them because I couldn't do it if I wanted to, mm-hmm. but I don't want to, and I couldn't do it. And, I felt ineffective, and I'm a good writer.
Yeah.
That's just not how I can.
Right.
It's incredible to me. Guitars come out and the strumming starts and the words start flying, and like I said, some of them are just incredibly talented, crafty people.
They are,
but I can't do it.
Yeah, I can't either. I have to be inspired.
Yeah,
and
you have to feel something.
Yeah, you do.
Relate to something. Have it mean something.
Yeah, and we're in music in general. I feel like in the masses, in the commercial side of it, we got less and less of that. The lyrics don't mean a damn thing anymore. The music all sounds the same.
Yeah, it's amazing.
The voices sound the same even.
Yeah, it's amazing. I I'm so great. I was a child of the 70s and the 60s, even the 60s when I was really, the 60s and the 70s, to me, that is the most amazing songwriting time. I don't know. I didn't know about country music then, although back then the charts had everything on it.
Yeah.
You could have, Brown Sugar and I Never Promised You a Rose Garden, and it didn't matter the genre of the song and Jackson 5. But that being said, I didn't know about the country songs that hadn't crossed over to pop. But the songs at that time were just, I have my Spotify playlist of 500 songs that I listen to. And I'd say probably 450 are from that time frame, 60s and the 70s. So those songs tickle me. Those songs bring me joy. Those songs amaze me. Those songs inspire me. The 80s came along and the techno stuff started happening in the 90s, and the angry street stuff started happening. And then to me, the genuineness of country music started, let's put auto-tuners and go pop and put that on it.
Yeah.
Let's all sing the same thing. And now I haven't, to me, it's gone. The music of today, it's just, and I sometimes think it's because I'm old.
No.
So I relate to the music of my youth, but I very rarely hear anything nowadays that makes me stop and feel something and go, wow.
Yeah.
You have to go, wow, when you hear a great song or something.
Yeah. If I'm not listening to XM radio, I'm listening to some of the guys on the independent circuit doing their own thing. I think they're the road warriors of these days. A lot of them's doing it on their own.
Yeah.
Drawing big money, got their own publishing, and it's a different time now.
Yes.
But on the other hand, you can't get that out to the masses, without that big label still. I think the big record label days are they're not near as important as they used to be, but they're.
Yeah. I don't even know what they do because they put it on streaming service. I mean, how do they promote music? Do they put out CDs? I know they release them, but does anybody buy CDs anymore?
Maybe 5 people.
They're streaming music. So that is the nice thing about streaming. At least you have access to the same avenue.
Yeah.
And maybe they promote. Maybe they can promote the.
I wish Spotify would pay up.
Oh, God.
That'd be nice.
Oh, my gosh.
My gosh. Can you imagine the royalties that you would get on Spotify?
I know.
There's no telling how many times where everybody knows your name has been streamed.
Yeah.
My God.
Well, it's if you add up Spotify and you add up iTunes and you add up YouTube, it's significant. Yeah. It seems like the music business has been playing catch up for the past 30 years.
Yeah.
They're behind it every single time. It's the Wild West, and they're behind it. I mean, Spotify is starting to slowly become quasi moral about what they do. But like you said, it's just use of creative people. And they wouldn't exist without the song.
Right.
Right? They wouldn't.
I think it devalues music too. Vince Gill said something that really hit on in a interview, something I was reading one time. And he said, I'm paraphrasing here. It really makes a statement when you can go download my new song on iTunes for 99 cents. But then this app is that you can tap and it makes different fart noises is 99 cents also.
Yes. Yeah.
I thought, man.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. That's a good point. Yes. Yeah, very true. Yeah. Music has been devalued.
How did you ever get into the TV side of things? That's an interesting thing that a lot of people try to break into, and I think really don't know how to.
110% by accident. Although I was a child of television, and I had a little bit of a dysfunctional childhood. Who among us didn't? So I kind of escaped into the television. And there were only 3 channels when I was growing up, and I learned the themes to every show on like all 3 channels when I was 10 years old or 8 years old, having no inkling of anything that was to come. I have this book in a box here somewhere, lists all the shows and which ones I can play the theme of. So somewhere early on, the seed was planted. But in reality, I had I was working on a musical, a Broadway musical, and we had demoed some of the songs, and the producers were shopping the tape, trying to get people to invest in the show. And, that's the thing about music. You put it out there, you never know how it gets from A. But somehow this tape that was trying to raise money for the show wound up on the desk. I got a call from Glenn and Les Charles, and they said, "Hi, you don't know us, but we're writing and producing a new show called Cheers." I did actually recognize their name from Taxi, but they said, "We're doing a new show called Cheers in the fall. We just heard a song of yours, and if you'll rewrite the lyrics, we want it to be our theme song." That's how I got into television, just a complete fluke. And of course, they couldn't have that song because it was tied to this show. And the producers of the show, I guess they were like Richard Landis. "You want to take away the song from us and give it to..." And contractually, I couldn't do it. So we started trying to write Cheers theme when we had already written it and had to, not use it. So again, turned out to be a good thing. I would not have wanted that other song to be the theme from Cheers.
Yeah.
But it was still torture for months. It seemed like years to go from that to the next one to the next one and finally come up with Where Everybody Knows Your Name. But that's how I got into television, without planning to, without trying to, without meaning to. It just, the door opened.
It's interesting too, for those of you that want to hear all the kind of steps to get to the final product here. If you go to your website, GaryPortnoy.com, on there you've got even the demos or the work tapes to all of this stuff, and then the final product.
Yes, yeah. So many people asked me how it happened. So this guy who was working on putting a little website together for me, I guess he said, "Why don't you just write it out and then it's there?" So I did it. I'm really glad I did. Even when I read what we went through, I go, "Holy shit!" That's lucky.
That's really cool, though.
Lucky that something didn't drop out along the way, and I'm forever grateful to Glenn and Les Charles, because I don't think they ever gave, if you're in the music business and you needed a couple of cuts, you had a couple of cuts left on an album, needless to say, you'd have 200 people coming at you with songs, or 500. And to my knowledge, they never, from the moment they heard that first song of ours, they never asked anyone else to write, which is amazing.
Man,
they never asked anybody else. They just stood with us. I don't know why. We were nobody.
Wow.
But they must have heard something, or they stood with us through all of it. I think at some point the network might have gotten a little bit antsy, like, put some pressure on them or whatever. But they just stayed with us. That doesn't happen that much, in any in any creative business. So a lot of things had to line up for that to happen. Amazing.
And did you get the piano riff, that everybody knows in the beginning? Did that just kind of come to you, or did you kind of dink it around and worked it out? Or no,
that was when we when we wrote the song, we really liked it. But I said to Judy, my co-writer, Judy Hart-Angela, I said, this is never going to be anybody's TV theme. I said, it's slow, it's sad, it's melancholy. I said, this is not a TV theme. And she, as I recall, she said, well, maybe we can put something on it. And if somebody goes into the kitchen to get a sandwich or a beer or something that'll say, come back in, something's, there's something happening. There's a thing, so maybe an announcement. So I, just as a joke, I said, like the Queen's trumpets. And I was doing like da 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 da. And Judy, who has amazing ears, said to me, wait, do that again. I'm like, seriously? Da 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 da. No, stop. Shorten it. Da 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 da. Yeah. Da 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 da. And that's, it was an afterthought, and I was just joking around, and she heard something, and that's how that got sewn. It makes me nervous to think of all the things that had to fall into place. It makes me nervous because it's really possible, don't you think, that without that, it might not have been a TV theme? Because it's, it might have been a really fine song that just wasn't suited for, I don't know. So another, sometimes the universe has plans, and, it's going to, I think if you're open, it's going to lead you to where you need to be led.
Absolutely.
Call it God. God has plans. And I think if you're open to following, and, you just believe that something's happening for a reason,
mm-hmm.
I think you get there, because, with this little song, so many things had to fall into place, and it could have been I've got some really good songs on my shelf that no one's ever going to hear. We all do. And this could have been one of them. Ouch. It could have been, it could have been one of them.
Wow. Probably the most iconic theme song, riff, just iconic. Yeah. I mean, that's got to be a wonderful feeling, but also a strange feeling, knowing that that's you, man, Yeah.
It is. And honestly, I didn't really, I swear to you, it's only in the past number of years that I get that iconic part. Because for the first 20 years, there was no internet. And I'm a pretty reclusive kind of person. I hang out. I'm so glad to be out of the music business, out of the TV business. Did my thing. I'm okay. Leave me. So for 20 years, I mean, I knew that Cheers was popular. I knew that people liked this song, but I honestly never had any sense of a larger picture than that with this song. And then the internet came along, and I was late to the internet. 2000, I was late to the internet. And this guy said, let me put together a little website for you. And from the moment that website went up, almost 20 years ago, not a day has gone by. All right, maybe two. Not 2 days have gone by that I don't hear from somebody I don't know somewhere in this country or somewhere in the world, saying the nicest, most heartfelt things. And so over time, I've come to, unless it's used in a commercial, then I get horrible abuse, terrible. Then I'm a prostitute, I'm a whore.
Yeah. I heard it in Applebee's the other day.
Yes, yeah. Can I tell you something? I've made my peace. I've never been in an Applebee's. I'm a vegetarian. I've never been in an Applebee's, but I loved that commercial. As I was getting mail telling me that I was a sellout and I had destroyed Cheers. Well, you know something? I'll tell you something. My allegiance is not to Cheers. That's my song. You know, I'm thrilled for Cheers, but I view Cheers as like the mothership that we separated from.
Yes.
And, you know, because try and find Cheers on TV now, but the song. So anyway, I loved that commercial. Why? Because there was no voiceovers there was no actors. It wasn't cute. Got to hear the song in a pure form. And, you know, after 39 years, it's nice to hear the song 10 times a day, you know, and even if you don't look at the screen and see that it's Apple, you're hearing the song, and I loved it. So, you know, screw you, all you commercial haters. I made my peace with it. There've been a couple that I hated myself, but, you know, since I don't control the publishing in that song, and these people don't even know what publishing is before they lash out at you and accuse you of, I've never had the responsibility of deciding where that song gets used and where it doesn't.
Right.
I didn't let Applebee's use it. Mm-hmm. I just went along for the ride because I had no choice. And so I liked it. And I liked having a Super Bowl commercial. You know, I didn't see any disrespect to the song. I think it's mostly people who have the feeling of Cheers and what the show was in their life and the song's place on the show. They get really upset. You know, they get really upset. But with the exception of those few people, I get mail that it's just beyond the place that song, you know, it helped somebody get through their chemotherapy. You don't think about that when you write a song. You know, another woman had it tattooed on her body because she said, I have to have it with me all the time. I didn't believe her, and she sent me pictures. She had it tattooed on her ankle. She got the it goes up and down her leg. And there was this one guy. He said he grew up in apartheid, a black man in South Africa. And he said during those years, it was a very sad, dark time. And they had very little access to the arts, to anything cultural, anything creative. He said, but the one thing that got me through was that song. He said, that song in my childhood in apartheid in South Africa lifted my spirits every time. Well, now, 20 some odd years later at the time, he's a professor of chemistry at the university in Johannesburg. And he said to me, he was in his classroom or his lab, and the song just came on out of nowhere. And he broke down. People thought he was crazy. He broke down sobbing. This connection from his childhood in apartheid to where he found himself now teaching at a university, and the connection with the song. You know, so I mean, I was sobbing when I read his email, and you know, those are extreme examples, but you know, I watched it with my dad every Thursday. My dad passed away, and now I'm watching it with my son, and streaming it with my son, and it's the only show we don't skip the theme song on when we, you know, just people say the nicest things to me. You know, where do I come off? You know, how did I come off being, you know, so blessed to, you know, to be able to receive that on a incredibly regular basis. So now I do understand that song is iconic. I never say that, but I do understand now that it's iconic and that it has a place in people's hearts. that a typical song or even a hit song might not. It has I don't know. Maybe it's the longevity of it, the enduring, I mean, you can have a hit song and have saturation on the radio, wherever people listen now. But in my day, for 3 to 6 months or a year, and then you'd hear it. But, I'm so grateful that people still give a crap about this song. Next year is 40 years that it was written.
Amazing.
Did I just say that?
You said
next year I don't remember being that young. I was 25. I don't remember anything really about it, but I do know it's been 40 years, and people still seem to care about that song. Lucky me.
I spent a lot of time with my grandparents when I was young, when Cheers was on. My granddaddy, they both did, but my granddaddy loved Cheers. He just laughed. I mean, he barely laughed. And I, of course, heard that song, along with all the other ones, MASH, Magnum P.I.
Yeah.
And, God, there were so many good theme songs. I miss theme songs.
Yeah. But it's really sad. I had my book with my theme, I think it's such a shame, because I think they were part of Americana, part of America, of American Absolutely. Life. Because, sometimes TV was your babysitter, sometimes it was your entertainment, sometimes, and the theme songs were so incredible. And so I did a special with CNN with Don Lemon called "Where Have All the Theme Songs Gone" this summer, and because people really don't know what exactly what happened, and I started, in my experience, it was pure greed, because we started out writing 60-second themes, and then I remember the first time somebody came to us and said, "We'd like you to write us a theme, 45 seconds." Like, oh. Okay, I guess I can do that. And then 30, and then 20, and then I'm not kidding you, 10. And I didn't want to do it, but I couldn't do it. I'm not an arranger or a composer or a conductor. I don't compose themes like that. I always wrote songs and then edited them down, and not to 10 seconds. So I stopped doing it. I just said, I've had so much fun writing TV themes. It's been a blast. I'm not writing a 10-second. I can't. And if I could, I don't want to. But it really, I think, was just greed, so they could get more commercials.
Yeah.
So they could, but what they took away, the theme that Judy and I wrote for a kids show, Punky Brewster, they did in 1980s. They did a reboot last year. I didn't choose to watch it, but they did a reboot, and they took our 60-second theme and they edited it down with a new performer to 9 seconds, not 8, not 10. They edited it down to 9 seconds, and I got the hate mail.
Of course.
What you just did to my childhood. How could you do? People don't understand the powers that be. And I said, why don't you write to Soleil Moon Frye? She's the executive producer of this reboot. And I said, I didn't do it. I would never have done that. But people love their theme songs, and they take them rather seriously. Yeah. And I do too. Some of the warmest feelings that I have, musical feelings that I have, are theme songs from the 60s, 70s, and 80s.
Sure.
And they're gone.
They're gone. The first song I learned to play on piano was your song, Where Everybody Knows Your Name. Huh. That's how much it stuck with me.
Wow.
It was in a sheet music book that I had, similar to how you said, the TV theme songs.
Yes, you had.
I kind of had had that too. TV was an escape.
It's not that easy to play that song. I don't know. People, it doesn't seem to be necessarily an easy song to play. So I'm glad that you learned it.
I learned it in C.
Oh, okay.
So it's a hell of a lot easier in C.
Yeah.
People don't know the difference.
No. Yeah. And there's that one chord that nobody ever plays right. The Wouldn't You Like to Get Away chord.
Yeah.
It's some kind of diminished chord, and they always make it a major or a minor. And very rarely do I hear somebody play that right. Well, I'm lucky I have a auto transposer.
Yeah.
Because I can't sing it in the original key anymore.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I have to lower it three halves. So I'm really playing it in G, but I'm still playing it in B flat thanks to the transposer on my electronic keyboard. I didn't have to learn it in G.
Right.
But just so you know, on a very rare is the day that I could hit those notes in. That's what happens to a voice over 40 years time.
Oh yeah, sure.
It tends to get lower.
Yeah. And another thing, besides writing the song, was it Glenn and Les? Did they want you to perform it also?
All I heard were, we wrote the song, we handed it over, and I don't remember, because my esteemed co-writer, who would never let me touch the lyric books, lost them.
No.
So, I can't tell. I am curious myself. I want to know when that song was written. I want to know where Mercury was she's lost. I couldn't touch them. I was going to lose them. So hopefully she'll find them. But anyway, so I'm not sure the exact time frame, but many, many months went by, and I just got a call saying, you have to come out to California tomorrow and record this song. I don't know exactly what happened, but I heard that there were two very well-defined camps of people. One group wanted me to sing it because they loved my demo, and the other group wanted to get somebody famous to sing it because nobody on Cheers was famous. Nobody knew Shelley Long. Nobody knew Ted Danson. Nobody knew. This show was just completely unknown, so they felt, at least let's get somebody famous to sing the theme song. And I heard all kinds of rumors, from Kenny Rogers to who, I don't know who. But the bottom line is, I don't know exactly what happened, but I just know I got a call, you have to come out here tomorrow and record this. I had pretty much maybe forgotten about it, recording it. So I don't know exactly what happened, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was Glenn and Les Strauss, because they didn't care if somebody was famous. They could have cast famous actors if they wanted to. No, they cared about who spoke their words the best, who had chemistry with one another when they cast that show. And when they hired us, that's what they cared about. So I would bet anything that probably, like, the network probably wanted to get somebody. Maybe NBC probably wanted to get somebody famous, and Glenn and Les Strauss probably used whatever power they had to. But it clearly went down to the wire, because it was just a few weeks before the show went on that I went and.
Oh, man. No pressure.
Yes. Maybe it's better that I didn't know that it was coming. It happened really, really quickly, and I didn't know any of the musicians. I was, I'm a New Yorker. I was in Los Angeles. I didn't know any of the other musicians. I walked into a completely foreign situation on a huge soundstage at Paramount Pictures, big enough for orchestras. They could record, Star Wars, and there's just like four of us in this massive, massive stage. And it was a little overwhelming. But of course, I thought this show would run one episode and fail. No one was ever going to hear it. I didn't have that pressure on me at all. Otherwise, forget it.
Mm-hmm.
But it was just a pilot. well, they had a 13 episode commitment, but it was just a new show.
Yeah.
And most new shows fail.
Yeah.
You know. So that was my singing experience.
Well, you nailed it.
It seems like another lifetime ago, though.
I bet.
But I did nail that. It's a good vocal. It's a good vocal.
Oh yeah. And who's doing the backup on that? Just some session. Yeah,
me.
I wondered about that.
Yeah, I did all the parts.
Wow.
You know, when they flew me out there, they just duplicate your demo. You know, just the demo was piano vocal, but they just said, you know, with the whatever band, just do whatever you did. So I just did exactly what I did on the demo. And then I was taken into some lady's office in the music department at Paramount Pictures. And she had the track sheet in front of her. She's like, what did you do? There's like 10 vocal tracks. I said, I did what I was at. Well, there's no way we can pay you for all these vocal tracks. I said, well, I did what I was asked to do. I wasn't padding the vocal. I just, you know, I was. So again, 25 years old, she got her calculator. She said, this is the best we can do. I didn't know. I didn't have an agent. I didn't have a manager. I didn't know that I was now a member of the Screen Actors Guild, and they would have gone fight for me tooth and nail. They are the best union. I didn't know any of that. So I said, okay. And so my singing fees forever were locked in that woman's office. Apparently, you know what I mean? And look, she did pay me for like I've done really, really well on those vocals, especially if it's in an Applebee's commercial. But what I'm saying is that I did not get what I did. I didn't get paid for what I did. And you don't realize that most things that we do in this business don't have long-term implications because nobody gives a, you know, yeah. I wrote the song, who cares? I sang this, who cares? You don't know when it's the one time when it's going to have implications forever.
Right.
So I always tell people, you know, protect yourself because you don't know when what seems like the smallest of something is going to turn out to be the biggest of something.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen every day, and you don't always get a redo. So, you know, I always tell people to always stick up for themselves. Always, if they have to, get somebody to, you know, represent them, or never assume that it doesn't matter because you're giving away nothing, because you could be giving away, you know, so much.
Yeah.
But we learn from our lessons. But
sure,
my grandparents never got to see Cheers. They died the year before. So they never got to see it. You're lucky your grandparents got to. But I always felt that my grandma sent it to me. I always felt that I felt her hand over the entire thing. Getting fired by the publisher, I felt her, you know, I believe what I believe. And that's what I felt. So she may not have seen it here.
Yeah.
But because it wasn't here to be seen. But I think there were loving forces at play.
Yeah.
But I wish I could have watched it with my grandparents. That would have been so cool.
I have a feeling they saw it.
Yeah. No question. We're on the same page with that.
One of the things that I thought was really clever, even as a young kid, the ending theme, where it just shows the empty bar and it's like a melancholy version of the thing. Yeah. Kind of jazzy a little bit, but it kind of gives you the idea of like closing time. Like it's kind of sad.
Yeah.
Did you play that?
I played it. It wasn't my idea. When I got to the session to do the vocals, it was put in front of me, and they brought in the clarinet player, and we did it. It might have been Craig Saffin, the guy who did all the incidental music for the show. It might have been him, it's. I think that it nailed it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember the stopwatch, because it had to be 30 seconds. I remember we kept doing it and doing it and doing it because it was too short, or it was too long, or it was, and trying to keep the feeling.
Yeah.
And then luckily one time, but I thought that was a great, and it is melancholy. And, Cheers itself is melancholy. And they wanted the theme at one point. They said, just think of people at 2:00, people who are left in a bar at 2:00 in the morning, right before they go home.
I like that.
Yeah. That's what they said to us at some point when they were trying to coax us through the process.
Yeah.
And, that's the opening of the song itself also, I think, is, which is why we needed the da-da-da. The da-da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
We didn't know how much melancholy America was ready for.
Right.
Or willing to, and they didn't watch the show for the first 10 weeks or whatever.
Mm-hmm. But boy, they did after that.
Yes. Well, it makes me sick to say this, but Bill Cosby.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely. NBC. I mean,
it was the Cosby, it got through the first couple of seasons on word of mouth, and just because it was damn good.
Yeah.
But it was not a hit show, and it was season to season renewal time. It was not until 1984, the Cosby Show came on and lifted all of us up. And then once it was seen by they were watching Too Close for Comfort with Ted Knight and Simon and Simon on CBS. But once it got mass viewed, it obviously stood on its own. But without the Cosby Show, I don't know.
Yeah.
There's no way of telling how long NBC would have stuck with it. So, yeah, that's an area of point of conflict.
A little bit.
A little bit. Yeah.
But you can't deny
that the truth is the truth.
That time, I mean, that had to be just life-changing for sitcoms.
Yeah.
During that time.
Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty amazing. NBC went from, they had nothing.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the reasons they gave Cheers a 13-episode commitment and stayed with it when no one was watching. They had nothing at the time, and then within a few years, man, and that was the precursor of the Seinfeld years and the Will and Grace years, and it was the rebirth of sitcoms and NBC. They were saying sitcoms were dead, and
mm-hmm.
I don't think anything is ever dead if it's done right. If it comes back and it's done right, I don't think it's ever dead. But they had it dead in the water. That was an amazing time. Must see TV.
Yeah.
Thursday night, must see TV.
Now I know people too are curious. Did you play those little minor deals where they would show the outside of the bar at the beginning of the show, and where they showed the Cheers filmed in front of a live studio audience? The little
when I did the session for the theme, he had those written out for the first 5 or 6 shows, and so I happened to play those for the first 5 or 6 shows. But then there were 265 more shows, and I had nothing to do with it. I happened to play the ones that were put in front of me that day. And then Craig Saffin, who did the incidental music, did all, he wrote new ones. And I had nothing, I always tell people I worked on Cheers for one day. And, they worked for 11 years. I worked for one day, not counting the months that it took to write that song, but actually working on Cheers, it was a 1 hour session. And that was my total involvement with the show. But I did play on the first few of those incidental minor things. Yeah.
It was such a great show. I still watch it when it comes on, and I know it's probably still played in every country daily. And it is iconic. The song's iconic. The show, the characters, it's iconic. And the finale, which was I think in 92, 93?
93, yeah.
How did you people forget about, or maybe don't even know how big a deal that finale was? Yeah. They actually had a live Tonight Show with Jay Leno in Boston at the Cheers bar right after it, right?
I was on that show.
You were on it.
Oh my!
And everybody was having some fun. I'll put it that way.
That was mayhem.
Yeah.
Pure mayhem. That was pure mayhem. And I, probably nerves, I got a really bad case of really bad chest infection. Just a week before that show. I didn't think I was going to be able to make it. And so I was on really heavy antibiotics, and I was taking these sleeping pills because I was so congested, I couldn't sleep. So I arrived in Boston on, the long story short, I was the only one who wasn't drinking that night. Because I was on so much medication and so it was, I was nervous. I didn't go to any of the festivities. Everybody from Cheers watched the show together. I stayed in my hotel room up the block. And then all of a sudden I got this panicked call from the Tonight Show. Come. I figured I would just walk over. I didn't know there would be 10,000 people between me and so I hit the street, and it took me forever to get to the Bull and Finch. And once I got there, I was grabbed and a back entrance and in a side elevator and up the thing and into the makeup and down the thing. And that's when I realized everyone is shit-faced. Mm-hmm. These people are, and not in a particularly great way. Like, I know that some of them were a little embarrassed. So, and I went back downstairs waiting to go on, and there's Ethel Kennedy, the table of Kennedys sitting there. And Warren Littlefield, the head of NBC's bartender, making drinks. It was surreal. It was absolutely, an insane atmosphere. And it was raining, got out to the piano. It was just, it was traumatic. I got up the next morning, I drove to Martha's Vineyard, and I just stayed in bed for like a week. And then I realized I was depressed. I didn't realize I was depressed when Cheers went off the air. It had been there for so long. I didn't realize I was literally like physically depressed for a while. But that night, wow, it was a big deal. There were news crews from all over the world. And I got through it. Rhea Perlman was shooting me with a water gun while I was singing. Thought it was funny. Wow. Yeah, I kind of forgot about that night. I'll tell you the truth. Until just now.
Is that the first time you had met the cast?
No. I met them when I went out to record the theme.
Okay.
But I didn't really know who they were. Because they weren't anybody.
Right.
But what I mean by that is, I went out when I first went out to record it. They had a big party at the Cheers bar for the whole NBC Thursday night shows.
Oh.
But of course, Cheers had never been on yet.
Yeah.
So nobody even was in, but they had the cast of Fame and Cheers and Taxi and Hill Street Blues. And so I met Cheers cast that night. And then I went to a rehearsal, and I saw why they all hated Shelley Long, because she was so fucking good and so fucking dedicated to her character and so unyielding. I mean, I went to a rehearsal. The show had never been on the air yet, and she kept them all waiting for an hour while she argued with the writers over whether Diane would or wouldn't say this line.
I love it.
And the other actors were already like rolling their eyes and, oh my God, this was and apparently they spent 5 years hating her for it. But what I saw that day was somebody so dedicated to that character. So anyway, I met them then. And then I didn't meet them for, we got invited to the rap parties and the Christmas parties. I never went. I'm not really a hanger-outer. So the next time I met them was a party in Boston for the 200th episode.
Oh, yeah, where the Pat McLaughlin.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. That had been taped in advance, but then they had a big party in Boston to watch it together. So I went to that. And, it was strange. I had met them when they were unknowns. Now I met them when they were big TV stars. Mm-hmm. Some of them had changed noticeably, and others of them had not. Some of them drank the Kool-Aid, and some of them had humility. Mm-hmm. Human nature. Some people change, some people don't.
Yeah.
That was a fun night. And then the last time I saw them was a couple of years later at the Boston disaster.
Yeah.
And then the only other time I ever met them, there was a launch party for Nickelodeon at night in New York. And Kelsey Grammer and George Wendt and John Ratzenberger were there. It was for all the advertisers to announce that it was coming on Nick at Night, I think. Mm-hmm. And I was brought out at the very end to sing the theme. So I hung out with them a little. But other than that, our paths, they were like a family working together for 11 years.
Yeah.
And I worked for an hour, and then I went home to New York.
Yeah.
So that was always kind of, people assume when you're that large a part of a show that you have some, interpersonal connection to it. Mm-hmm. And I really didn't. Mm-hmm. Strange.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
To me, it does.
Yeah. I
know to a lot of people, they would want to think, more, but it makes total sense to me. Did any of them ever give you a compliment on the song or anything like that? Any nice words?
Yes. Yes. Yeah. John Ratzenberger, always incredibly gracious about the contribution that it had made to the show. Ted Danson gave an interview once, and he said, at some point, we wouldn't have even had to go to work. If they just played that song, people would have watched every week. He said, we didn't have to do anything. And just last month, there was a series of specials on CNN called The History of the Sitcom. And somebody said to Ted Danson, what do you attribute to the incredible success of the show? And he said, well, the theme song was kind of brilliant. So I thought that was really a very nice, a really nice thing to say. And Jimmy Burrows, the director of the show, people would always come up to me and say, I ran into Jimmy Burrows and he said, your song is 35% responsible for the success of Cheers. And I always laughed because it was never 30%. It was never 40%. It was always
35.
Your song. Yeah. And at least 5 people would come up to me and say, I just saw Jimmy Burrows. Your song was 35%. So I feel like we were appreciated, to a certain extent. We certainly didn't get 35% of the syndication revenues.
Yeah, that'd been nice.
Jimmy, we did not get 35% of the syndication and cable revenues, but nonetheless, it was nice of him to at least say that, even if actions speak louder than words.
Yeah.
Far be it from me to.
Would you say that's the greatest thing that you've accomplished, or the greatest thing of your life, business wise, professionally?
Yeah, because quite frankly, it would be hard to compete with it. I'm a good writer, and I've written some good songs. Maybe some people would say great songs, and I have some theme songs that no one will ever hear because they were either rejected by the show that they were written for, or they were accepted and the show didn't get on the air, or the show got on the air and ran for 2 episodes because it sucked. So I have some TV themes that I really love that no one's ever going to hear, but I would have to still say that this one is a little bit above it. I wrote a song for Fame called I Still Believe in Me, that it's the only time in my life I ever handed a rough demo over to somebody and it came back and I wasn't disappointed. I was, I've had great people record my songs, but I can't honestly say that I ever got thrilled and chilled and improved upon my demo. But this was the one time that it came back and took my breath away. And then when it was filmed for the show, it took my breath away. So that is a close second to me in terms of creative achievement. But it's apples and oranges.
Yeah.
The Cheers theme, yes, it is I'm lucky that I love the song, because I would imagine some people have success with songs they don't love, or their biggest success is not the one they love the most.
Yeah.
But I'm lucky. I have to say I love that song, and I probably love it the most of anything I ever wrote. So I don't have to wince every time I hear it or wonder why other people like it. Because I'm lucky. I like it. And I liked it from the moment it came into the world. So that's a little bit of a blessing. You read a lot about people who had hits with songs they can't stand.
Yeah, and they're stuck with them.
Yeah, they're stuck with them. Yeah. So at least I was spared that.
Yeah.
I love my song.
I love it too. America and the world loves it.
Yeah.
I mean, as you've seen, that internet's got its good side, I guess. It's got its bad side too, with the trolls that, want to bash you when you get a song on Applebee's commercial that you had nothing to do with.
And I won't say one bad thing about that. I'm not going to say one bad thing about it.
I love
it. Brought me some joy.
Mm-hmm.
It brought me some joy for a couple of months, and I can't be responsible for other people's connections and emotions and lives, No. But the internet, yes, the internet, in the case of this song and my life, has just been like, nobody deserves to have this much positive communication as I get. Nobody deserves that, to keep having that reinforced and validated,
Yeah.
It's like Sally Field, you love me. You really love me.
Yeah.
She got a lot of torture for having done that, but I sometimes say, wow, they really like it. Nobody made that person sit down, find my website and email me. Nobody made that person in Holland or India or Chicago. Nobody made them do that. They searched it out and they took the time to let me know that something I did touched their life in a small way. And in some instances, in a bigger than small way. So I feel grateful beyond the beyond. It was worth getting that song back in that tuna fish bag.
That's ruthless there.
That guy went to jail, by the way. His company was the. You should go to jail if you give somebody their song back in tuna fish oil.
Oh, hell yeah.
You should go to jail. So, sorry for him.
You made a record a few years ago, right?
Most recently, yeah. I made a few very quietly.
Yeah.
Very quietly. I have this agreement with the universe. I really don't write anymore. I don't try to write. I don't sit down. But I have an agreement. Man. I don't. Well, but I have an agreement that if something comes to me, I will not push it away.
Okay.
I will receive it.
Okay.
I don't sit down. I sat down every day for probably 20 years to write every day.
Mm-hmm.
I don't write anymore, except if something comes into my brain or through I honor my. So every 5 or 6 years, it seems I get a batch of songs coming to me, even if I don't want them to.
Mm-hmm.
And so I receive them, and it's not part of the deal that I have to record them, but it's been about every 5 or 6 years I go in and because I love the studio. So I go in and I record, so I've put out about 4 CDs, but I don't promote them. I don't let anybody know that I did them. I upload them. This is a business where people say I'm doing it for me, but they're not. They're not doing it for them. They want I really did them quietly. I uploaded them out into the digital universe. And if anybody ever finds them or likes them, I'm thrilled. Every 4 or 5 years, I get an email that's not about the Cheers theme. It's about a different song. Man, that's amazing. When that happens, but it doesn't happen often. But every now and then, and I say, okay, I'm glad that I let that song come into the world. And because, that cliche, if it makes one person happy or they relate to it or they love it, it's worth doing.
Yeah.
A lot of people say that, but I actually mean it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thrilled that a song found its way to somebody, and every 4 or 5 years they tell me about it. But so yeah, I've got music out there, and some of it's pretty good, some of it, but I just leave it to find its way.
And it will. The song always will find its way.
You have to believe that if you're going to put yourself in being a songwriter. You better believe that a good song finds its way, a great song will find its way, and you have to believe in fate. My grandpa Harry always said, Gary, my boy, the most important word in the dictionary, destiny, fate. Because, there always is a larger picture. And some things you're focused on and you put everything you have into it and they don't lead anywhere. And then a tape you send out one place lands on someone else's desk and they call you up and they say, this is what we're doing. I guess the moral of the story is keep putting it out.
Yeah.
Keep putting it out. I'm old, so I have a right to not do that. But you keep putting it out. Young people, keep putting it out, and and believe. There's a reason you're doing it, or you wouldn't be doing it.
Yeah, it's a great point.
You have to do it. It's from in here, and it's from out there. At least that's what I believe. It's a godly thing.
Oh yeah, it is.
Receive and to put forth. I mean, that's a to me, that's a godly effort. Sure. That's worthy of praise in and of itself. Receiving inspiration, transforming it into something someone can listen to. To me, what could be more meaningful or valuable than that? what can you do with your life that's, you just shouldn't have to get beat up and abused for it. You should be lauded for it. You should be, but that's what it is.
It kind of makes, it's kind of like the military, kind of make a man out of you, go in here and beat the shit out of you and, call you every name in the book and tell you you're terrible and you're not worth my time, have, like you said, be on the phone while they're, listening to the damn demo and.
Yeah. It'll grow you up really fast.
Yeah.
Yeah. The fantasy becomes reality really fast. And then you have to decide if the reality is worth putting up with. It is.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah.
And you can't stop it. Those things that come out of the sky, man, you reach up and grab them. You can't stop it.
That would be unnatural and perverse to not receive it and give it its chance. Yep.
Well, man, I've thoroughly enjoyed talking to you in our conversation here. Really have.
Yeah, me too. I'm trying to think if there's anything I said I wish I hadn't said. No, I'm good with it all. I'm good with all. I've really enjoyed it. I'm glad you reached out to me. It's worth your time.
Too.
So
I am too. I'm glad we're glad to have you on the show here, and y'all been watching and listening to Picking It Out, and we've had Gary Portnoy on this week. We'll see you next time.